What's up, gamers? Hi, Guardians, and hello, Internet. Welcome to another Sloop Gaming video. And today we're doing something a little different. It's going to be a reaction video to a YouTube video that was put out by Liana Ruppert, former community manager over at Bungie for Destiny 2. She has a lot of positive things to say, a lot of very insightful things to discuss in regards to the live service model for online gaming. So let's show Liana some respect and hear what she has to say regarding live service games. Let's take a look.
Things. It's what we do. Thank you for tuning into this very professional intro. I appreciate you. I have, for anybody that is just joining this channel, because I had quite a few new folks join in on this new blog corner of the internet. Again, my name is Liana. I have 21 years of experience working in games across media, PR, community management, accessibility, and much more. With that experience comes with a lot of stories and a lot of opinions, and this video channel is mostly dedicated to that. But as you can kind of see through my videos, there's other topics too, like ghost stories and other stuff, and why I returned to Hinduism, and it's just basically a diary. I'm not a content creator by any stretch. That takes a lot more commitment and time that I just don't want to invest into this right now. Not to say that is a bad term to investment. I have nothing but respect for content creators because holy shit, they are their own brand managers, HR, content creators, editing. It's just insane. But that is not the purpose of this channel. So not every video is probably going to be for you, and that's okay. At the end of the day, I am doing this for myself. It's just I like sharing. I'm Southern. We like to overshare. It's what we do, and that's what this thing is. So what are we talking about today? Today, haha, we are talking about live service. And what the fuck is wrong with it? Just kidding. Well, not really. That's half truth. I love live service games. I keep trying to get into Final Fantasy, and I want to so bad because all of my friends that have very similar taste in games are absolutely head over heels obsessed. There's just something blocking me from it, but I keep trying. I've uninstalled and reinstalled it so many times, so we will persevere until damn it, we like it because I know it's my type of game. But I've also been talking with a bunch of studios recently in consultation of helping them make sure that accessibility checks are done, and even some community management foundational laying is also being done as well. And because of that, it really has my noggin thinking about something that I've been thinking about for a while. And one of the things that I kind of wish I was still media is I could write about this in a way that will have a platform to invite discussion. I don't know if this video will accomplish that, but what I want to talk about in this video, and also hydrate or dihydrate, bitches. What is wrong with live service? So just for some backstory on to why I even want to talk about this. Sony, under Jim Ryan, before he departed the company, went all in on live service, effectively making studios force turnover into this model, regardless of whether they were equipped for that or not. All game development is incredibly challenging. Live service is a beast of its own. Every game dev that has launched a game will tell you it's both the most exhilarating and stressful thing ever. And that is very true. The difference between live service and single player games is once that launch is done for a single player game, there's still work to be done for sure, but that launch pressure is lowered until you work on what discovers next. With live service, i.e. like a game like Destiny, you have that stress of a launch every 3 to 4 months. So you never have that come down rest period. You only have the go, 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 go. So it's not meant for everybody. Some people are just made for it, like literally. They can do that kind of hustle, no issues, long-term, sustainable, all Gucci. And then there's others that thought they wanted to do that, got into it, was like, this is not good for my mental health. Both instances are absolutely valid, and both deserve to do what they need to do to make themselves happy. However, there is a problem that we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of publishers demanding studios to really go balls deep into live service games. And we've also seen it with other live service games that have come out in recent years that we're all told they were going to be the next big thing, and then they tend to fizzle out. a lot of times when people talk about this type of subject, a couple of games come up at the forefront, namely Anthem by BioWare, published by EA. And there's also Outriders, which I love. People Can Fly is made up of some of the most talented devs ever. And I still, Outriders, I stand by the review I gave it when I reviewed it for, I think, Game Informer. I stand by that review 100%. It was an amazing game. And
had a lot of fun playing Outriders.
The design was incredible. The weapon design was
Anthem
incredible.
too.
The world building, amazing. Story, amazing. I loved it. However, with Anthem, we saw Anthem 2.0, and it was supposed to be this big renaissance of live service. And from what I saw of it, it absolutely, like as the youth say, slapped. It was amazing. So then why was it canned? If you read my article over at Game Informer that's called An Ode to Anthem, I talked about some of the uphill battles that studio went through in terms of public perception and optics. So a big part of that was the game itself was good. Let's be honest, and you can fight me on that if you want. I really don't care. In my opinion, it was a really good game. You had the character development. Matthias' storyline was absolutely hilarious. I ugly snort laugh every time I played through it. The world building was really fun. The flight mechanics were some of the best in games, hands down, even to this day, and I'll stand by that statement. It was great until it wasn't. So the wasn't was where it dropped off this very stark, it had build up, cliffhanger, nothing. Like there wasn't a come down, it was just you hit that climax and then you have to wait for the next part. I think they were referred to as episodes. It's been a while since I've looked into that whole shebang. It's been a couple years, but I believe they were called episodes. The problem was, and this is why good community management teams and social media teams and comms teams are very important, they were told they could not say anything. So when they're getting just slammed by media, by players, by shareholders, they are just getting beat the fuck up. They couldn't say anything. Not even a simple tweet.
I like her directness.
There was a year of radio silence. What that does is it gets you into brand trust territory, not just distrust of Anthem. So by the time they were able to turn around, invest these heavy resources in turning that ship into something that is incredible, the trust wasn't there anymore and that receivability wasn't there anymore. I want to talk about why that happened. Obviously, not letting people talk. I think companies don't companies don't understand that a little bit of transparency goes a long way. The amount of times I would respond
without a doubt
saying, I understand you want to know more about this. Please understand we can't say anything at this time. And the response was always, that sucks, but I get it.
Yeah, at least you said something.
Never underestimate
right?
The power of that. There is so much power in just trusting your community to take it. We used to say things all the time that we technically weren't supposed to say. As many dev friends that I have from other studios being like, why would y'all say that? Why not? It's transparency. It's what you're supposed to do. That was a contributing factor. But what I think, when I feel the core component to this is you're not willing to fail. If you're going into a live service game, if you are prepping to go into a live service game, and this is ignoring all of the other red flags, are you built for that? Do you have the right teams for that? Is there the right experience for that? Do you have the bandwidth for this? Have you structured your studio in a way that they can do this ongoing development cycle with no breaks in a healthy way? All of that aside, the one thing that I really feel contributes the most is you have to be willing to fail. Look at Destiny. When Destiny 1 first came out, flopped. People didn't like it. Where's the story? Where's the purpose of playing? What am I doing? Taken King arrived. It's the best fucking game ever. Let's go. Destiny 2 arrives. Okay, there's a little bit of a story, but it filtered out very quickly. Where's the story?
It was nothing that we wanted.
Then you had Curse of Osiris. With any other studio, a Curse of Osiris flop would have made that studio shut.
Community had enough.
That's a big testament to leadership and to devs that they were able to circumvent that, because any other studio would have caved. BioWare, for instance, which is exactly what they did with Anthem. And I'm not saying that's BioWare's fault. I'm saying a lot of those decisions fall on leadership. All of those decisions fall on leadership. There's a common denominator on the villain stories, and a lot of it is the C-suite executives, but nobody wants to talk about that, because if you do, suddenly you're not hireable.
Yeah.
But
or you're not employable anymore, and you're let go.
Osiris failed. Beyond Light came out. Forsaken came out. Oh, okay, we're getting somewhere. Witch Queen comes out. Boom, baby, we're back. It's the best received expansion, bar none. Music, story, characters, involvement, engagement, rewards, check, check, motherfucking check.
Motherfucking check. Well, motherfucking check this out, Liana. I would argue to say that when Forsaken came out, that is what the Destiny 2 community had anticipated the launch of Destiny 2 encompassing as far as content and the overall structure of the game. But she's making great points right here. And if this isn't necessarily for those that are Destiny fans, obviously, if you are invested as a player or as a creator or what have you, dev, in the game of Destiny with the studio of Bungie, obviously you have a familiarity of who Liana is. But for those that are new to Destiny, new to Bungie, new to online gaming, the points that she's making so far in the video are very direct and succinctly hitting the nail on the head as far as what goes into not only setting up but sustaining a live service game. So this is excellent insight. Let's continue.
It was golden. Bungie has succeeded in ways that other studios have not because they're so special and they're the golden child. While I do agree the devs are some of the most magical human beings I've ever met in my entire life and some of the most talented,
Bungie has a special sauce.
The main component isn't just that. It's Bungie's not afraid to fall on its face.
Okay.
It falls on its face, gets the data from that falling of their face, and then they come back swinging with even better shit. That's what they do. So the things with live services, if you're going to embark on this and if you're going to dedicate all of your resources, which you have to, live service games are very resource demand heavy, incredibly resource demand heavy. So if you're in a leadership position and you're not willing to spend the money to properly resource these teams, you're going to have a bad time. Creative people can't create under insurmountable long-term stress. They need relaxation. They need to feel valued. They need to have purpose. They need to feel supported. If you're not willing to do any of those types of things, or you're willing to go la 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 every time half your studio keeps bringing it up, you get what you get. But the winning strategy of any live service game, and we're seeing a lot of new studios come out with their plans of going into live service, even games like Last of Us are diving into a multiplayer component with factions. Will we ever see it? I don't know. I had no visibility on that. But there's a very noticeable shift that studios are wanting to capitalize on the earnings that games like Fortnite get and Call of Duty gets. The problem is they're not willing to do what it takes to achieve that. They're not willing to invest the resources. They're not willing to change with the times. They're not willing to think, oh, maybe this is an old way of thinking, it's time to update. They're not willing to do any of that. And they're also not willing to fail. You have to be scared to fail. There's no way to not fail in live service. Final Fantasy is the award-winning RPG and up for numerous awards. But do you remember what it was like when it first launched? It wasn't good. ESO, Elder Scrolls Online, same thing. Actually, in Game Informer, I had an interview with the creative director twice, and one of the titles is something like why Elder Scrolls failed at launch. They didn't have an identity, and the creative director was talking about how they wanted to do this. This was a big project they wanted to do, but they didn't understand what the game actually was going to be. They didn't have a firm identity set before production, before development, before deployment. And when you have that loss of direction, it's felt. It's very easily felt. Never underestimate the intelligence and perceptivity of your audience. That's a rookie mistake. We all know this. But it is important to note that the two biggest MMORPGs are where they are because they failed big and they failed hard, but they didn't give up. That's something that I will always be so sad for the BioWare teams that were pulled off of the projects they loved to work on this new game and genuinely believed in the new game, thinking it was really cool because it was. It was a very amazing idea. It was executed well up until it wasn't. And it's very interesting to see how that colossal failure impacted how publishers see live service versus developers see live service, and how they're willing to push past that because they do see these outliers of success and like, we're going to do that. And it's possible to do that. We've seen it time and time again. New games come out on the market all the time, and sometimes they fail and sometimes they do really, 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 really well. And there's a couple of companies that I really feel strongly about what they're working on. And I think now more than ever, it's very important to have these conversations because resources and marketability of a live service game is finite, especially when you have a lot of live service games in direct competition with each other within the same vein. If you have a bunch of sci-fi shooters, Warframe, Destiny 2, come to the forefront immediately, you're directly competing for a very similar audience for a game that demands a lot of time. So a lot of times players are stuck in this mode of I have to pick one or the other, or they just don't sleep like me and try to play all of them, and holy shit, it's not a good move.
I gotta stop it right here because very well said, Liana. Using the examples of Destiny 2 and Warframe, very demanding schedule-wise for the average gamer. If you expect to play all the content with Warframe and then expect to jump over to something like Destiny 2, it's extremely hard. And I've tried it over the years, right? In my 10 years now of playing Destiny 2, and probably within the same amount of time playing Warframe, although I played Destiny 2 for probably a year before I went into playing Warframe, but there's probably a 3 to 4 year period where those were my two main games. And trying to play both of those games, all the content, and as like someone who is very much a collector, okay, and looking to get all of the gear, the weapons, what have you, right? The skins, ornaments, and that's not even talking about getting the certain titles and achievements and accolades and what have you, right? Just your average gamer doesn't have the time and or capacity to play both of those intense live service games such as Warframe and Destiny 2. I'm not saying that it's impossible, right? I mean, I've done it, right? I'm an example of someone who has done it, but it was very demanding time-wise, especially when you have a full-time day job, right? And then you have familial and IRL responsibilities, and depending upon like your family structure and social structure, what things that you do offline also are time demanding. And then you also got to like eat and sleep, right? Like, eating and sleeping and, things that kind of keep you alive to do everything I just mentioned. But in order to even like think about being heavily involved in multiple live service titles, like you have to pick your poison, right? You have to fit those type of games into like your schedule because they are very demanding. And what Liana is trying to explain, and we'll get right back to it, is that everybody from a C-suite, from a corporate perspective, they're seeing the success of these titles financially, right? And I think the points that she has raised, and that she'll continue to be raising throughout the video, is that it's not a get rich quick scheme. You can't go halfway with a commitment and resources and finances and doing all the things that these successful studios like Digital Extremes and Bungie to put your teams in a position to succeed. You can't go halfway on that if you're looking to start a new live service game. And I think that these are some of the points that she's made so far halfway through the video, and that she'll continue to highlight. So let's get back into it.
But regardless, I'm really nauseous. You cultivate these audiences that are expecting a certain level of quality and quantity. Once you set the standard of this is what you're gonna get, that is what players are gonna expect. Actually, I do want to touch on this really quick. I see a lot of people always talk about, like, oh, remember when that Bungie dev at GDC talked about, oh, don't over deliver. That is massively taken out of context. I don't think people that are talking about that, especially casual players, not like journalists, are talking about it, bothered to watch the whole thing. He wasn't saying don't give good shit. He was saying be careful about what you set that expectation, because once you've set that expectation bar, you are beholden to that, regardless if it's sustainable or not. It's not.
I'm going to stop it right here. And hello to everyone that's in chat. We are watching Liana Ruppert, one of her recent videos that have come out entitled "Are Live Service Games Doomed?" If you don't know who Liana is, she is very experienced with all facets of online gaming journalism. Most recently, she was the community manager for Destiny 2 at Bungie before being let go with roughly 8% of the Bungie studio. And what 2023 is going to go down is just horrible for those that are employed in the gaming industry. Thousands of layoffs have occurred. But what she is, the points that she's driving home here is with her experience in live serving games and other studios and companies looking to adopt the live service model, what are the expectations for success, and what does it take to be successful based upon her personal hands-on experience, to really, bring these live service games to market. But what she is referencing right here in regards to the GDC, where be careful of over delivering, and she makes a great point here. The average person that heard that soundbite most likely did not bother to watch the entire presentation, right? Like, that soundbite is grossly overrepresented and embellished and exaggerated as to the studio not wanting or not caring about putting out quality or quantity of their product. If you do watch, which I have, the entire presentation, that's just a small peak amongst many of various points that were raised as far as providing guidance to other developers inside the online gaming space as to how Bungie had went about putting out their product and providing their live service experience. And the reason people just hear the soundbite is because that's just how social media and information consumption is today, right? People hear a soundbite, they take it, they digest it, and then they go with it. They don't take the time to consider the source, right? Or they don't take the time to not only consider the source, but to see that soundbite just doesn't stand alone. It's part of several that if you took a step back or a 30,000 foot view, you'd see the big picture, right? Too often people in social media, look at these Twitter bites, these sound bites, what have you, wherever you go for your information, you're not seeing the forest from the trees. People are too focused on the tree to see the entire forest and the entirety of the information that is presented. And that's unfortunate. So let's continue with what Liana has to say, but I just wanted to stop right here and just bring that up.
Not a secret that Bungie has suffered a lot of crunch through the years. There's videos, there's articles about this. Crunch has been a huge component of Bungie, and it still is.
The whole industry, right?
Are they trying to mitigate it? Yes. But that doesn't stop that from being a very real danger. And a lot of that is because they're busy chasing trends. They don't have the resources to chase in a timely fashion. And they set the bar of expectation really, really high, especially with Taken King. That's all that means. It's not saying don't deliver good shit because then players are going to expect. It's think about the quantity and the quality of what you're delivering. And for a live service game, and make sure that you are structured in a way that can handle that in a safe and healthy way going forward. Because the second, this is exactly what happened with Destiny, the second that cadence starts to drop, because that's how they protect the devs and keep them healthy and focused and feeling valued, players see that as, oh, they just don't care anymore. No, they're just caring about people more. There's a way to do it. I don't think it's always handled in the smartest way, but we can't keep punishing studios for trying. But what we can do is learn from that lesson, and learning how to make an educated guess on what the expectation should be at launch that is doable for all involved indefinitely. But here's the other thing. Warframe and Destiny, just comparing these two because they're very similar. Now, you have to invest a lot of time to play both of these games. You do.
That's what I said.
You have to be willing to live, breathe, shit, eat Destiny or Warframe. You do. Well, if that's the case, you're cultivating the trust and the engagement of this core player audience, which is good. That's marketing 101. However, when you realize that the entire, and Rachel Levine actually said this, I love her. She's I used to work with her at Bungie, and then she went to Naughty Dog, and I forgot where she's at now, but I think Respawn. She's amazing. Like she's just sunshine. I love her. But she has said, time is the currency of live service, and it's very, very true. And what I think people often overlook is that when you're looking at time as that economic driving force, time is the one thing none of us can escape. All of us are going to get old, wrinkly, and die. So when you have these live service games that say they're going to go on indefinitely, that's a big red flag. When I hear somebody say that the live service game and they don't have an end date for that, I'm always like, that's suspicious, because time is finite. And as you cultivate and focus on these core players, they're going to grow up and have families, and their time is now going to become more and more precious to them because they have less of it to expend on things like games. So then they're like, well, it's fine, we'll pull in another new audience. No, because new audiences have a different set of expectations that you don't have that history with. So they're going to be demanding, which is exactly what's happened with current games, they're going to be demanding X amount of features, X amount of involvement, X amount of da-da-da-da. The core creators are going to have, no, this is what this is, and this is how those resources are, and this is how this drip feed is, and da-da-da-da. So then you have these two explosive microcosms that are going to be constantly competing against each other because they have different needs as a consumer. And that's when studios start just splitting in half and just really falling apart at the seams. Not calling out any studio in particular, but I'm pretty sure you can connect the dots of what I'm saying here because it's obvious. And it's not for lack of anything other than you just need to realize that times change and you need to be willing to change with them. Temper those expectations. There's also a reason why a lot of these Destiny and Warframe killers never really make it off the ground, because live service games weren't really meant to last this long. What about World of Warcraft? Compare World of Warcraft and Destiny 2 and tell me how those are similar. Different type of game, different structure of a game, and it's built around that. Those are apples and oranges at this point. We're talking about similar market veins. Studios want fast. Studios want, like World of Warcraft is amazing. I've been playing it since vanilla, but it has its own pacing that would not work for any other game off the top of the bat. Like it would have to be bled into the bone marrow of whatever new game is inspired by that. But publishers don't want that. And I say publishers, not developers. Publishers don't want that. They want the fast money. They want the fast return. They want the fast timeline that they can give to shareholders to ensure the proper funding. Okay, well then you need to be not scared to fail, and you need to make sure you're resourced. However, you also need a timeline. You should not expect a game and a live service component for a fast-paced market to live beyond 5 years, 5 to 6 years.
I just wanted to put the brakes on here because I don't want those that are watching this video to take away that I don't believe Liana is trying to say is anti-corporation. I don't think that's the point that she's trying to make. I think you have to, again, consider the source, consider the title of this video, and the header of all the information that is presented are live service games doomed. I think in regards to the live service model, I think the points that Liana is trying to get across is the corporate structure, especially from the publishers, in regards to satisfying the shareholders and the board of directors, is they want the get rich quick. Let's satisfy the bottom line and then go beyond it within the shortest time frame possible. And I think the points that she's trying to hammer home here is that within a live service model where other studios, publishers, the executives that are involved with those entities, they're seeing that they're only looking at the tree. They're not looking at the forest here. They're looking at the tree of profitability, or maybe a couple trees of profitability in regards to what a live service model can deliver in theory. But they're not looking at the complete picture, where in order to get to that point, you have to cater towards a very specific audience with a very specific timeline integrated into the live service game, and have enough resources and teams set up in order to facilitate that type of live service. And then ultimately be prepared to fail, because most likely you will, and then learn from those failures, continue with supporting the teams and providing the resources to regain the trust and move forward in a positive direction with that niche viewership and participating gamer and audience that you originally had set out to service through live service.
6 years, 7 being generous, but I really think they're pushing that envelope there. And then you're running the risk of ruining the legacy. Why not end on a good note instead of puttering out a slow death? Like, if it was up to me, Final Shape would be the end of Destiny 2. I think that would be a phenomenal way, because Final Shape is amazing. Like, I can't obviously talk about it because of NDAs, but Final Shape, I really am excited. I'm really excited. Like, it combines so many elements of storytelling that I'm so fascinated by. And there's a lot of spiritual elements, and you see characters in a completely different light in a lot of these instances, and it's incredible. That's the way to end Destiny. And then invest in something new. Obviously they have Marathon, but invest in a single player game. Because here's the thing, this happens in every industry, not just games. There's always these like popular bubbles that just pop out of nowhere, and then the industry shifts to focus on that one bubble. But bubbles burst. That's just nature. There's no bubble that is infinite. They're all finite. So when that collective bubble bursts, which we're already seeing with Jim Ryan stepping down, what you're gonna see with that decision, because Jim Ryan was the big like push of live service, that's the future. And that went directly against some of the philosophies of other people in that circle. And so now that he's out of the way, I have a feeling that they're going to pull back that a lot, because they recognize it's not the smartest business move to put all of those eggs into one basket. Why am I clapping into my microphone? I'm so sorry. When that bubble bursts, we're going to see a ton more layoffs. We're going to see a ton of more angry devs. Here's the thing. When we got laid off, I wasn't mad because we got laid off. I was mad at how it was handled. They lied to our face numerous times, had a rah-rah rally 2 weeks before telling us layoffs weren't going to be a thing, but we got to work hard, you guys. No this, no that. We got to work hard. And we were all on board, only to be told first thing in the morning with no notice, oh, by the way, not you.
I'm going to pause it right here real quick. In the 0 Hour podcast, the podcast that I host with online players and insiders, not just within the Destiny 2 community, but online gaming, After the layoffs had occurred at Bungie, one of the points that myself and my guest raised and really dove deep on was none of us are as presumptuous to dictate to another business or entity or individual how to conduct their affairs, right? How to run their business, right? They have their business model, they move forward. Obviously, Bungie is extremely successful. Destiny 2 is extremely successful. And I'm confident that, you know, the studio of Bungie isn't going to be falling on its face and closing its doors anytime soon. Although there have been reports that they came dangerously close to that, which is why they got in bed with Sony. But that's neither here nor there. The point that I'm trying to make is what we discussed on the 0 Hour podcast wasn't that here is a corporation, here is a company, here is a studio that is firing its employees, right? Because at the end of the day, if they feel that those employees don't fit within their business model, then so be it, right? That's their decision to make. But how they went about, which Liana just mentioned here, how they went about letting those individuals go, that is the crux of the issue. That is the problem, right? Liana says there was a rally 2 weeks before. Yes, leadership came in and assured that there wouldn't be any layoffs, especially with everything that had occurred up to that point in 2023 across the gaming industry with massive layoffs. Don't worry, we just need to refocus and double down here, ABC, XYZ. But it all turned out to be just talk, just gas, and ultimately, 8%, which Liana was part of, was let go. So again, I just want everyone to be cautious. I don't believe, and I can't infer from what she is communicating in this video that she is like anti-establishment, anti-corporation, anti-publisher, anti-studio. It's none of that. I think what she's really trying to double down on here is that regardless of whether you're an entry-level dev or someone established in the corporate structure in leadership, there's a level of empathy and there's an expectation for you to do right by your team and communicate effectively and honestly and earnestly and not blow smoke at people, right? Don't try to manufacture consent. Just don't lie. Be honest with those that are around you.
Having that bubble burst is going to see a lot of deconstruction of a lot of these studios, and a lot of publishers that are kind of grab having as many studios as they can to build their own network are going to see this total collapse. Just like civilizations, just like any other industry, there is a natural order of creation. There's the apex where the epitome, like just Roman Empire, like they were like the empire to be until they weren't, because you go up, 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 plateau, and that's the highest peak. You plateau a couple years in civilization terms, a couple thousand in game dev terms, 1 to 2 years. And then once that happens, the eventual collapse happens, because time, technology, society expectations, they all move incredibly fast. I'm gonna sneeze. They all collapse. So when this live service bubble collapses, we've been in this plateau since Fortnite really made it big. Because remember when Fortnite announced its Battle Royale mode, nobody thought it would do well. People were like, oh, they're just trying to be like PUBG, because PUBG was the creme de la creme at that time. Then Fortnite comes in with an entirely different idea on that same space, and suddenly PUBG's numbers just dropped drastically. Fortnite did what people didn't think they could do. They took an idea that was a trend and popular and productive and economically rewarding, and they made it its own so that it continued on that positive growth structure. However, they get kind of a longer lifespan than anybody else because they go so outside of the box. They do concerts in the game. They've done awards in the game. They've done movie showings in the game. They go beyond the elements of a game. So they are kind of not set by that same structure because they don't operate like a normal game operates. And even Epic Games, still laid off 900 people. So when this burst goes, you know who's going to come out on top? Single player games. Those are going to be those are going to be the saviors. You know how like video games before COVID were always seen as the enemy by media? Oh my god, those devil games. Yeah, everything bad in the world's kind of video games. And then COVID comes around and suddenly we're the heroes of humanity? Same thing. People, publishers, namely shareholders, are discounting the love and the staying power of a single player game. We've seen this publicly years and years ago. EA really put their foot in their mouth by saying there's no money in single player games and nobody wants single player games. That's a big load of horse shit. We're seeing that with God of War. We're seeing that with all of these amazing single player games that players love, and the fandom staying power is still there. Dark Souls, there's barely a drip in the conversation of Dark Souls. But when was the last Dark Souls game? There's a staying power that, if done smartly to a single player game, that is absolutely mitigates some of that risk to a publisher and to a developer studio. So when that burst happens and single player games become the hero we all need, what's going to happen to those studios that only focus on live service or are structured solely for live service? The bubble's bursting. We're in that burst right now, and the burst can take a while. I think the burst will finally be done by the mid 2025, personally. But I could see it getting, COVID upped a lot of timelines, to be honest. So it could very easily be sooner and it could be later, depending. But right now we are definitely trending towards 2025. So when that bubble bursts, I guess I just want to really hammer home that if you're in a live service game, you have to not be afraid to fail, and you have to realize that with this venture requires a lot of thinking that might not be within your wheelhouse. So you need to be willing to listen to other voices. You don't know everything. If you knew everything, you would be the sole developer. I want publishers, I want studios to really understand live service is a phenomenal venture, but it's risky and it's very demanding. And if you're not willing to take that risk and you're not willing to mitigate the damage by how demanding it is, you are already putting one foot in the grave before you've ever shipped the product live to players. So that's kind of the problem that I have with live service. Live service breeds a lot of crunch. Live service breeds a lot of frustration. It breeds a lot of volatility from players because it's this ongoing set of expectations that are just not possible to meet every time. Sometimes you're gonna have shitty seasons. Sometimes you're gonna have glorious seasons. Sometimes you're gonna da-da-da. Sometimes you're gonna da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. You know? We're talking Sims now. But it's a different beast that people aren't properly adjusting to, both on the consumer side and on the development side. And I hope that changes with this bubble bursting, because when that bubble bursts, that doesn't mean there will never be any live service games. Obviously there will be live service games, but what we're not going to see is entire studios being forced to shift into that model when they're not equipped. There are a couple studios, I'm not going to name names, there are a couple studios right now that were forced to go all in, balls to the wall on live service, and they have told me, we are not equipped for this. This is gonna fail badly. And that sucks, because game dev is really hard, and so to put all that time, effort, passion into something that you don't even think will make it out the door sucks. So what players need to do is they need to ease up on the armchair dev, because there's so many videos I've watched that I'm like, wow, they sound good. Sucks that none of what they're saying is accurate, but it sounds really good. Understand that there's way more to it than you could possibly fathom unless you're on that side of it. And even you're on that side of it, not every team has the same amount of visibility. We need players to be more understanding and more guiding. Not saying don't give feedback. I'm saying go fuck yourself is not feedback. Feedback is, hey, this system felt very poorly designed. I'm not sure what would be the fix here, but here are my recommendations that I would like to see as a player. That's incredibly helpful. That is incredibly helpful. The rest, not so much. But I hope that when this bubble bursts, we can have a little bit healthier of a gaming industry, because it's not healthy right now and it hasn't been healthy for a very long time. And that shit needs to fucking change. Especially when every time there's studio closure stories or every time there's layoff stories, we've got thousands of people that are cheering that on. You deserve to be homeless and not be able to feed your fucking kids because you suck. I don't suck. Leadership made the call. The calls that you don't like were not made by us. They were made by them. And they still have their jobs. So why are you mad at me? I'm just trying to fucking pay rent or mortgage or pay my groceries. Me, I had my final cancer screening that I had to cancel because I don't have insurance anymore. My final all clear of cancer, I had to cancel because my insurance was taken away. Put yourself in my position for a second. That's terrifying, especially when we didn't see it coming. That's the part that we're pissed off about. We understand layoffs are unfortunately a part of the shtick. We get it. But there's a way to go about it. And a lot of times they are not. You can see many horror stories online from across multitudes of studios that are just not done well at all. If you don't treat your devs like humans, people make games. Games don't pop out of nowhere. If you're not willing to care about the people, then don't you dare turn around and say you care about games. Love you, bye. But that's basically my whole rant. Obviously, I've got a lot of feelings on this. I love business. I love development. I love strategizing. It's my thing. It's my shtick. It's what I do. It's what I know because I worked really hard to learn those skills. There's a lot of people that like to fake like they know, and certainly some really good pretenders. But it takes a lot of dedication to learn that kind of shit, and you can do it. I believe in you. Listen, read, learn, apply. Don't just fucking regurgitate because you heard it and it sounds pretty, and then that's it. Like, if you don't understand it corely, have that honest conversation with yourself. If you don't understand it corely, you got more to do. And that's okay. Life is a journey. We're on it together. But it just makes me very irritated that we're seeing so many studios being forced to go into this box of live service and they're not equipped for it. And the people that are able to make it a reality are the first ones to be punished. That's all I wanted to say. Time is a currency. Bubble's gonna burst. You gotta be afraid. You can't be afraid to fail, and you gotta communicate. Give your players some credit. There's no longer the hiding behind, but we can't say that because da-da-da-da. The line between consumer and product developer is so thin, we cannot abide by that standard anymore. You need to be more transparent. You need to be more honest. When something doesn't work, you need to be honest. If you have to go back on a promise, you need to be honest about why.
And own it.
If the reason is we simply can't afford it, then say it.
Exactly.
You'll be surprised by the amount of player empathy you will receive.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I will... Actually, you know what? What we need to do is... Right. I'm not... The notification, subscribe. I'm really good at this, can you tell? I'm so professional. I don't have a schedule, so don't feel free to put the notification bell if you care about what I post. If not, that's totally fine. I understand. I wouldn't subscribe. I get it. I totally get it. But yeah, just you know what? I can't do it in TWABs anymore, so I'm gonna do it here. Make sure you're prioritizing that mental health. You are drinking that water, and you are always leading with your kindest foot forward. On that note, I will catch you guys next time. Later, friends.
And there you have it. Recent. I don't script any of this stuff, man. I'm just trying to think on top of my head. Okay. And there you have it. Liana Ruppert, former community manager over at Bungie for Destiny 2. Her most recent YouTube video on the live service game model. Is it doomed? Are we in a bubble? Quite possibly. With a lot of the points that Liana raised, most likely. A lot of interesting facts were brought up. I encourage everyone to, listen to individuals like Liana with her experience in the games industry. Go beyond the individuals and the influencers and the entities that you are normally accustomed to consuming information. right? Step out of your box, step out of your personal safe space, and do the research. The best point that Liana made was at the end of the day, if you can't reprocess the information and explain what is good or bad about a game, then you need to do more work, right? And it's not necessarily regurgitating what somebody is saying in another YouTube video or what they're posting in social media, right? It's not regurgitating that, right? If you can't, in your own words, explain the information that you want to reiterate that you heard from someone, then you really don't know truly what's going on to form an educated opinion about what's good or bad about a game, whether it be a specific mechanic or occurrence in a game, or about the devs in the studio, or just the way the studio overall is moving. Case in point, the Bungie GDC presentation to other game developers, where the soundbite of "be careful not to over deliver" is basically just completely taken out of context, especially if you haven't watched the entire presentation, because that's just one peak, as I mentioned before, of many peaks that were used to provide insight on how the studio conducts themselves within the live service model, right? But that's just the type of environment that we live in, where you hear the soundbite, you regurgitate it, you immediately form an opinion without doing the research and considering the source and the context in which it's said. Thank you so much for watching. This is Sloop Gaming. Be safe, stay vigilant, and as always, may the light protect us all. Peace out, and don't forget to drink that water, or Hippie is gonna slap you. Thank you for watching. Likes and shares are kindly appreciated, and subscribe for more content. Peace.